Welcome once again to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I hope that you are enjoying this show. You can catch us on WQEE Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 on 99.1 up in Noonan, Georgia. How are you doing? This is the Monday edition of the Sports Beat. I'm going to have my NFL recap. If you missed the show yesterday, I aired it at 12 o'clock on my Facebook page and on my YouTube channel, as it was the instant reaction to college football. And I also had an instant reaction to the brand new minor league baseball team named the Columbus Cleanstones, which I go off on a little bit of a tangent. Yesterday, Thrift Behringer and I had the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. It was our scoreboard recap. I'm not going to touch up on high school football on this show. I'm going to save that for tomorrow's show, as this week I don't have any guests. I'm just going to be talking sports the entire time. Might throw in some coaches shows, might throw in some Georgia Alabama Sports Live shows, but I'm trying to wind down because I'll be out of town for a couple of weeks. Still going to do some shows, but I want to just try to keep it real. So on this show, I got to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. They just keep on doing what they do. They break the hearts of many Falcons fans, and it was ugly. I have some thoughts about that. I've got some surprise teams in the NFL. Going to preview tonight's Monday Night Football game between the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets. And we also are going to talk a little bit about the Braves, the WNBA. Angel Reese is out for the season. What does this really mean for the viewers of the WNBA? Are they still going to be watching because of Caitlin Clark? I think so, even though Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese go hand in hand. Just a lot to get into, including, and I'm going to have this segment every week because it's going to change. The new AP poll came out, so I made another college football playoff prediction. I think I'm going to do this every week. This is a lot of fun, just based off of the new AP poll. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the show. The first team that I want to talk about here on the Sports Beat is your local team to Georgia, the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know what to say about this one. 18-10. It could be the Steelers have a very good defense. They've also dominated this series. And I thought this Falcons offense was going to be explosive because of Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not that special. In fact, he's ordinary. Maybe it's because he doesn't know the offense just yet. He's trying to get used to Zach Robinson's system. I mean, this was a big win for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for their new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. Look, the Falcons defense did hold Pittsburgh to 6 field goals. But the story here was Kirk Cousins making mistakes. He was 16-26, 155 yards. We're talking about a quarterback that normally passes over 300 yards in a game. That's his average. He did have a touchdown, but he did have 2 interceptions for a quarterback rating of 59. The only bright spot in this game was the touchdown pass to Kyle Pitts to put the Falcons at 10-6. But I did not think that the defense did a good job allowing the Steelers to get that field goal to end the half. The Falcons kept stalling after drive after drive. the turnovers, the punts. And let me tell you something. They did not run the ball as good as they should have. I mean, you only give your running backs 22 carries. You've got two very good running backs in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. You only give them the ball 22 times. You need to be running the football at least 35 to 40 times. This is your identity. The Falcons have a very good offensive line, and you've got to run first. Kirk Cousins is not quite ready yet because I think he's still injured. I think it's too early to hit the panic button. You don't want to go to Michael Penix Jr. just yet. But where was the explosive offense? I did like that first drive. They march all the way down to the field, but they stall. They end up kicking a field goal. And the turnovers really hurt the Falcons, even when they got the ball back, when the Steelers went for it on that fourth down. The Falcons, Kirk Cousins, threw another interception, and that's just not going to get it done. And I'm sorry to say, I mean, this was an embarrassing loss, and it's not going to get any easier for the Falcons because next week they play the Eagles on Monday night. And guess what? They play the Kansas City Chiefs in 2 weeks on Sunday Night Football. You know Taylor Swift's going to be there. You know that Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth are going to hype up the Kansas City Chiefs and how great the Chiefs are. It's going to be tough. And then the way the Saints beat down on the Carolina Panthers, that game against the Saints in week 4 is not a guaranteed win because it's a rival. Imagine, if the Falcons start 0-4, do you put in Michael Penix Jr.? I mean, what do you do? What if Kirk Cousins struggles through the first 4 games? Anyway, I do want to touch up on the Thursday night game, the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Baltimore Ravens. This really was an incredible game, and it proves that the Kansas City Chiefs are still the best team in the NFL, that they're more likely going to three-peat. I keep saying this over and over again because I watched this Kansas City Chiefs team. I've seen them beat my San Francisco 49ers twice in a Super Bowl. Is Chris Jones not the most important clutch defensive player out on the field today, period? Chris Jones makes incredible plays when it matters the most. If there is a weakness on this Kansas City Chiefs team, maybe it's because Travis Kelce is just getting older. But other than that, the Kansas City Chiefs, their run game with Isaiah Pacheco, he's not a Pro Bowl running back. I'll give you that. But, their receivers, it doesn't matter who the receiver is. It could be Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. It could be Noah Gray. It could be Justin Watson. It could be Juju Smith-Schuster, who, didn't get any stats. He only had 1 target, but, they got him back from the Patriots. And Nico Hardman, who was the Super Bowl hero last year, they just know how to win. And it starts with 5 core people that has been there since the beginning. Number 1, it's Andy Reid. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes. That coach-quarterback combo is always important. Number 3 is Travis Kelce, Mahomes' most reliable weapon. And then number 4, the defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. And then finally, number 5, Chris Jones. These are the 5 people. If one of them left, I'm not 100% sure if the Kansas City Chiefs would be a Super Bowl contender. Well, maybe Travis Kelce, because, he might start becoming a non-factor because of his age. And, the Chiefs will just plug and play. As for the Baltimore Ravens, I would have liked to seen them give the ball to Derrick Henry a lot more. I mean, think about this. J.K. Dobbins, who was on the Ravens, rushed for over 130 yards for the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, I just think that they got Derrick Henry in name only. They thought that he was going to be the Derrick Henry of 5 years ago, and maybe that's not the case. Anyway, a good game. Chiefs play the Bengals. The Baltimore Ravens next week, they're going to be taking on the Raiders. I mean, when I preview my week 2, I kind of have an idea of where these teams are going. Meanwhile, can we never, ever play NFL games on a Friday night ever? That is for high school football. I couldn't believe that they were playing this game not only in Brazil, but on a soccer field where the conditions were just terrible. And then Jordan Love gets an MCL sprain, and he's going to be out maybe 4 to 5 weeks. Green Bay now has Bailey Zappi and Malik Willis. I think the Green Bay Packers are doomed. And I don't even know if they're going to be a playoff team, because by the time Jordan Love gets back, they might have lost all their games. Meanwhile, the Giants just gift-wrapped Saquon Barkley to the Eagles because he had 3 touchdowns. If you had him on your fantasy team, you had a good week. The Philadelphia Eagles, I've said this on my preview show, that the Philadelphia Eagles might be the most explosive offense in the history of the NFL, and I count the 98 Minnesota Vikings, the greatest show on turf in 2001, or the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. The Philadelphia Eagles might just be on par with all those teams. All right, I'm going to do some quick hitters around the NFL. I'm not going to cover all the games, but I'm just going to do some quick hitters. I'm going to start with the team, that probably has the biggest fan base, and they are pumping their chest this morning, including Skip Bayless, if he had a show to pump his chest on. The Dallas Cowboys. I didn't see this coming. They go into Cleveland, and they punch the Cleveland Browns in the mouth, 33-17. I mean, Dak Prescott looked great. Is it possible that Dak Prescott could just get paid already? No longer do we say, oh, Dak Prescott is a good quarterback at home. This proved that he is a good quarterback no matter what. He's got his favorite target, CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks has always been a number 2 receiver that's been good. But it's really the defense that has stifled the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson was sacked 6 times. He threw 2 interceptions. I mean, you're passing the ball 45 times. And the Browns don't have Nick Chubb. He's still injured. You only ran the ball 19 times. The Cleveland Browns, which in most people's mind, this was the most complete team when healthy and could possibly be a Super Bowl contender if Deshaun Watson is back to his old self pre-2019 when he was on the Houston Texans. It's a huge win for the Dallas Cowboys. This is one of those wins where maybe the Dallas Cowboys, who have had 12-5 seasons the last 3 years, they were a number 2 seed and lost to the Green Bay Packers in the first round of the playoffs. Many people think, the Cowboys are still a playoff team. I just don't know. The Philadelphia Eagles look amazing, but this was a very big win for the Dallas Cowboys. Surprisingly, the Chicago Bears, who beat the Tennessee Titans 24-7, it wasn't because of Caleb Williams. In fact, Caleb Williams struggled in this game. I was actually shocked. Looking at Caleb Williams' stats, he went 14-29. He did not have a touchdown. He did not have an interception, but he had a quarterback rating of 55. The run game really was a non-factor. The offense really was a non-factor. And when you look at this game in the landscape, the Tennessee Titans jumped out to that 17-0 lead. Will Levis looking pretty good. The newcomer Tony Pollard from the Dallas Cowboys looking pretty good. But they had a block kick returned by Jonathan Owens. Big shout out to Simone Biles' husband. How awesome is that? I know that household is got to be celebrating. She wins a gold medal, a couple of gold medals, and Jonathan Owens, her husband, blocks a kick and recovered and returns for a touchdown. That made it 17-10. And then you had the interception return here we go. Tyreek Stevenson, 43-yard interception return. And that is all she wrote. The Chicago Bears get a big win over the Tennessee Titans. Another team that, I think that with the Falcons' woes, I think that the team to beat in the NFC South is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as they get a huge win over the Washington Commanders. Another rookie who had an okay, he had a quarterback rating of 93. Jaden Daniels actually didn't play too bad. He was 17-24 for 184 yards. I think that he would probably be the rookie that, probably played the best. He rushed for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. and Jaden Daniels had a pretty good game, but it was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, 4 touchdown passes, including 2 to Mike Evans, 1 to Chris Godwin. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still the team to beat in the NFC South. What a win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, giving Baker Mayfield that contract, getting him paid, that was the right decision. All right, let's move on. Another rookie quarterback that struggled was Bo Nix for the Denver Broncos. Seattle is still really good. Kenneth Walker is a really good running back. They've got DK Metcalf. They got Tyler Lockett. They got some good players. Geno Smith didn't have a perfect game, but you have Tyler Lockett, Zach Charbonnet, you have Jackson Smith-Jigba, Noah Fant. They've got weapons everywhere. The Denver Broncos, it's going to take some time. Bo Nix was 26 of 42. He had 2 interceptions, and he was sacked twice. And Bo Nix actually was the leading rusher on the team. If your quarterback is the leading rusher, there's something wrong there. Yes, he did have a touchdown run, but you got to get your featured running backs like Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. You need to get them more involved because your quarterback, who's a rookie, can't be your leading rusher. But I think that Bo Nix will continue to be better. How about the debut of Jim Harbaugh for the Los Angeles Chargers? Now, I wasn't sure if the Chargers would win this game because we didn't know the status of Justin Herbert, and I thought that they would struggle because they don't have the receivers like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams from last year. But how about J.K. Dobbins? Have yourself a day. 10 carries, 135 yards, and a touchdown. The former Georgia Bulldog, Ladd McConkey, 5 receptions, 39 yards, and a touchdown. And the Chargers beat the woeful Raiders 22-10. Look, Gardner Minshew is a backup quarterback. The Raiders are going to struggle this year because they don't have a number 1 quarterback. How bad does Davante Adams want to get out of Vegas? I mean, it's been awful for Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers. Brock Bowers actually had 6 receptions for 58 yards. I mean, he had a pretty good debut for the Raiders. It's just that their defense just couldn't stop Justin Herbert. And now the Chargers in Jim Harbaugh's debut, 1-0 on the season. And then the Houston Texans, they got a big win over the Indianapolis Colts on the road. And welcome back Anthony Richardson to the Colts. I think that he's going to have a good year. He went 9-19, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. But C.J. Stroud was more efficient. He was 24-32, 234 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And probably the biggest free agent acquisition, besides Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles, Joe Mixon going to the Texans. How about that? You don't think that the Bengals miss Joe Mixon, especially after getting embarrassed by the New England Patriots? And so those are the only graphics I have. I'm going to touch up a little bit on the other games because, the New England Patriots got a huge win over the Cincinnati Bengals, 16-10. As a big win for Gerard Mayo. And remember, I predicted that the Patriots were not going to win a game, so I'm eating crow on that. Minnesota ends up defeating the New York Football Giants 28-6. We had the Buffalo Bills coming all the way back to defeat the Arizona Cardinals 34-28. They were down 17-3 at one point in this game. And then we also have the Sunday night, the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill actually did play. He did get arrested earlier. He did play. Jacksonville was up 17-7 in this game, and the Dolphins end up coming back to win the game 20-14. Oh, the New Orleans Saints, they just completely demolished the Carolina Panthers 47-10. I don't think Bryce Young is the guy. I thought maybe that he would have a better sophomore season. The Saints, even though I'm not a firm believer in Derek Carr, they still have Alvin Kamara. they still have some playmakers on defense. You know, when you have a lights out defense like the Saints have, it just makes your offense a lot easier. And then finally, the Sunday night game is it is a great game going on right now with 4:44 left to go in the fourth quarter. The Rams are driving on the Detroit Lions. They are trailing this game 17-13. I will try to get a score update on that by the end of the show. But now I do want to talk about the latest AP poll in college football. So every week I'm going to make my college football predictions, and sometimes they'll change drastically, not to reflect the AP poll, but the big change is that Texas moves up to number 2, especially after getting a big win over Michigan. Tennessee goes all the way up to number 7 after beating NC State. The teams that dropped the most, Michigan and Notre Dame. Notre Dame falls all the way to 18 after losing to North Illinois. Clemson, they go up to number 22 after beating App State. New in the AP poll this week, we've got Iowa State after beating Iowa. They are ranked 21st. Nebraska is ranked 23rd after drubbing Colorado. Boston College is 24th after beating Florida State, and Northern Illinois is 2-0 on the season. Is that a team that I might put in the group of 5? Well, if they could beat NC State, I think that Northern Illinois is my group of 5 team, but we'll see. All right, let's go ahead and throw up that graphic. This is my college football playoff prediction. I'm going to go ahead and bring it on the screen. Of course, as you can see, there's some changes this week. Instead of Georgia being number 1, I got Ohio State being number 1. I just think that Ohio State, even though Georgia might be better, Ohio State might be left with 1 loss or even undefeated. I think that Georgia loses to Texas, but I think that might be the only loss they have. I got them beating Alabama. I got them beating Ole Miss. I got them beating Tennessee. I just have them losing to Texas because I think that Texas is really good. And the reason why I don't have Texas number 2, because I think Georgia on a neutral field at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium beats Texas in the SEC championship. And that will give Georgia the SEC crown, but that might give Texas maybe 1 loss. But Texas is going to be the most explosive number 5 seed. And, they're going to be hosting that first round playoff game in Austin. And then, of course, I still got Miami winning the ACC. I got Utah now winning the Big 12. I am a believer in Cam Rising. I think this is a very physical team, which means I drop Oklahoma State down to number 9. A win is a win. They still beat Arkansas. They could have lost that game, but Oklahoma State's going to rattle off a lot of wins in the Big 12, and I just think that there is going to be room for an additional conference foe in the 12-team playoff. So I got Memphis taking on Texas. For this week, Memphis is my group of 5 team. It could vary. It might be Northern Illinois. It might be Tulane. I highly doubt it's going to be Boise State because Boise State lost to Oregon. All right, Penn State. I still believe in Drew Allard, and I think that Penn State, even though they barely got by Bowling Green, I got them playing Alabama. USC is now in my college football playoff projection. I do love what they do, and Miller Moss is a pretty good quarterback, and USC shown that, first of all, Lincoln Riley can coach. And the way they beat LSU, I think USC, I got them beating Michigan. It's going to be tough, but USC gets in. So that would mean that 3 Big Ten teams make it into the college football playoff. Here's my next slide. See, I moved the Rose Bowl up because I think that the team with the number 1 seed is going to have the selection on where they could play the quarterfinal game. I got Ohio State playing Ole Miss. Again, I got Tennessee playing Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Alabama playing Miami, the rematch of the 1992 Sugar Bowl de facto national championship. Also, these two teams played a couple of years ago. Texas and Utah, I think that's a mismatch. I think that Texas ends up winning that. How about these semifinal predictions? Texas and Ohio State, and once again, Alabama and Georgia in the Orange Bowl. Yes, Georgia will get to play Alabama this year. This is what I'm predicting. And then my national championship didn't change because I still think it's going to be Georgia and Ohio State. All right, let's throw down that graphic. All right, there you go. That was a lot of fun. A couple more housey notes before I close this show. Let me go ahead and grab my notes here. Just don't forget that tomorrow I will have my high school scoreboard show on Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and YouTube channel. By the way, 4:28 left to go, and the Rams are leading the Detroit Lions in the fourth quarter. 4:26 to go. They now lead 20-17. That is going to be a good game. I will go ahead and recap that on tomorrow's show. So, along with the show that I have for, the NFL reaction show, my college football reaction show, I got my high school football reaction show, and I have the show that I have on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm also going to do a show live on tomorrow's show on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Real quick, Braves take 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays. They defeated the Blue Jays 4-3 in 11 innings. They are right now 78-65. The current standings has got the Braves and the Mets deadlocked for that 6th and final wild card spot. Get ready, folks, because it is going down to the wire, and the Braves are going to be there for the ride. One more thing, Angel Reese is out for the season. The Fever end up defeating the Dream in overtime, 104-100, and another double-double for Caitlin Clark. The Indiana Fever are the hottest team in the WNBA, and they are currently in the 6th seed, 19-17. And let me tell you something. If this plays out, they will face the Connecticut Sun in the first round of the WNBA playoffs. I want to see that matchup between Caitlin Clark and Dejanay Carrington, because she is one of the biggest lockdown. She's the Patrick Beverly of the WNBA. I mean, can I just say that? I mean, she's a pest, and she needs to be locked down on Caitlin Clark. Such a great show. I am so glad that I'm able to do this show. Don't forget, you can like and subscribe to the Facebook page, the YouTube channel. I'm also on the X. I'm also on Instagram and on TikTok. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.